Today, for our vocabulary read aloud, we're going to be listening to Epperson's Icicle. Remember, when good readers read, their voice does not sound the same all the time. Sometimes it is higher, and sometimes it goes lower. It depends on your understanding of the sentence and what is taking place in the story. That's why, friends, we need to be extra careful when we're looking at our punctuation as we read. This week, you can listen for my intonation as I read, and as you do read alouds at home this week, I would like you to focus on that as well. Now, for Epperson's Icicle, we're going to be using this week's vocabulary words. Let's take a look at them. Exact, discovered, remove, amazed, guard, growled, explained, souvenirs. When you hear one of these words in our story, I want you to give a thumbs up. We're also going to be answering some questions throughout. So get your pencil and reader's notebook ready. Here we go. One winter night, more than 100 years ago, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson became an accidental inventor at his home in San Francisco, California. Frank was using a stick to mix up a fruity drink by mixing flavored powder and water. Frank got distracted before he ever took a sip, and he left the drink on his back porch. Let's pause for a moment. For our first question, when and where did the events take place? That same night, the temperature dropped and a big freeze hit the city. It was unusual for it to get that cold in San Francisco. When Frank woke up from breakfast the next morning, his hungry stomach growled like a bear. Before he ate, Frank remembered his drink on the porch. He had left it without a guard to watch over it during the night. Frank found the drink on the porch in the exact position he'd left it. When Frank reached for it, he discovered it wasn't a liquid anymore. Frank's drink was frozen solid around the wooden stir stick he had left in the glass. Frank didn't try to remove the stick. Instead, he held it like a handle and slid the icy block out of the glass and gave it a lick. He'd always wondered what a drink would taste like frozen, and now he knew. It tasted great. Let's pause for another moment. How did Frank Epperson become an inventor? If you need to go back and re-listen to that section over again, go right ahead. Otherwise, push pause to write about how did Frank Epperson become an inventor. Then, when you're ready, you can push play again. Frank explained to his friends what had happened and made icy treats for them. He didn't try to keep the secret of how he'd made frozen juice on a stick. After all, he'd made it by accident. His friends loved the treats, and he thought everybody else would too. When Frank was older, he decided to sell them. First, he called the frozen lollipop an Epperson Icicle. Later, he changed it to the Epsicle. Finally, when he was grown up with children of his own, he gave it the new name we use today. Let's pause again, friends. For question 3, what sequence of events took place after Epperson invited the Epperson Icicle? Remember, feel free to go back and rewatch. Otherwise, you can push pause and write your answer and push play when you're ready again. It was 1905 when Frank left his drink on the porch and invented the frozen juice pop. Today, people in the United States eat hundreds of millions of them every year. There's no museum selling souvenirs or showing pictures of the first Epperson Icicle, but it has become one of the favorite hot weather treats in the country. Frank was right that he'd be popular, and he'd probably be amazed at just how popular. Friends, one last question for you. Here's your challenge. What do we call this Epperson's icicle nowadays?